Welcome to Bahasa Indonesia, Idioms and Expressions Part C. The first word we will learn is doang. Doang, and it means only. Gitu doang. Is that all? Dasar. Dasar means to be founded upon, a foundation. But it means like, isn't that typical of? You hear things like dasar laki. Well, isn't that just typical of a man? Melulu. Nothing but. Gitu melulu. Is that all? Dia bawa tas kosong melulu. He only brought an empty bag. Here's something you hear in Jakarta in particular all the time and very common in Indonesia, and it's from Chinese, a Chinese dialect, and it is lu for you and gue for me or I. Lu gue. There's an expression we have in Indonesian which is lu lu gue gue, meaning every man for himself. You are you and I am I, and it's every man for himself. Lu lu gue gue. Quite often hear that they say in the big cities, it's lu lu gue gue. Gara-gara, all because of. Gara-gara. Gara-gara suka main cewek kena penyakit. All because of his love of sleeping with women, he's caught a disease. Lugu is another word for sederhana, something that is plain and unadorned. A person can be lugu for a very simple person. Quite a good word for someone actually, lugu. Toh, nevertheless, or after all. Toh, it's sort of used and you hear it all the time. Toh, walaupun kecil, masih bisa angkat toh. Although he is small, nevertheless he's able to lift it. Toh, you hear that very commonly. Lagi. Now here's a very big word that they use in Indonesia. It's a word which means masih, still, for still doing something. You hear it all the time. You might hear the question, Di mana Aisyah? Lagi mandi. She is still washing. She is washing at this very moment. Lagi mandi. Lagi makan. They are eating at this moment. Lagi. Used all the time. Very, very common. The word for toilet. WC. From the letters WC in English. You hear WC. Probably the most common way of saying toilet. An old-fashioned way was something like saya mau ke belakang. I want to go to the back, which means the toilet they're referring to. Kamar kecil is also a toilet as well. Another thing they have in Indonesian is pede, percaya diri. It means to have self-confidence. A person who has kurang pede, that they lack self-confidence. Ge'er, gede rasa, a person who's conceited, who's full of themselves, sombong, ge'er. The word to cry, commonly in Indonesian, for children and other people, quite often is mewek. It's a bit derogatory when someone's just blubbering away and you want to be a little bit derogatory. Mewek, mewek. For cry. Ungkep means to hide. Sembunyi in Indonesian, but very commonly ungkep. Jompo for old folk, decrepit old folk is jompo. You hear a panti jompo is an old person's home. Banget. Now here's another very common word. It means very. Senang banget. Senang banget. Very happy, and it goes after the word it describes. Kena. Now, kena, if you throw something at someone or anything and it hits, if you're spot on target, it's kena. It's usually used for something that is adverse, to be affected by something adversely. Kena penyakit, to be affected by an illness or a disease. Also, if you get taken at the shop, if you get taken by anything in a scam. Kena. Kena benar. Aku kena. I've been taken. Aku kena. Tau rasa. Tau rasa is now you know how it feels. Get a good feeling of this. Now the shoe's on the other foot. It's a good expression. Tau rasa lu. You hear it all the time. Tau rasa lu. Now you know how it feels. Lo. Lo is used commonly, and it really just brings attention to something. It's like an exclamation almost. Lo, begitu. How is that possible? It's used very, very commonly in Indonesian speech. Lo. It's like my, or remember, or right. Common. You hear out, listen out for it. You'll hear it all the time. Tanggung. Half-baked. To do something, a half-hearted attempt at anything is tanggung. San, in the expression barusan, very, very recently, right at this very moment, just passed. Barusan. You hear that? Dia berangkat, barusan berangkat. Barusan berangkat. Oh, he's just now left. Bule. Bule is a word for white people, from the Indonesian word for albinoism, usually for the water buffaloes, a very common thing amongst water buffaloes. Bule. It can be derogatory. I mean, if you hear, mana bule? Mau kemana bule? I mean, it can be rude, and it doesn't necessarily have to be rude. It depends. You call yourself Pak Bule, it depends on the way it's expressed. It'll be very obvious whether it's a derogatory term or not. So good luck with all of them. And until the next update, keep on studying your Indonesian. Good luck. Selamat.